Good evening. This is the Lebanon City Council meeting. I'm Dick Robertson, President of the Council, sitting in for the mayor's on vacation. So we'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge. Dan, can you lead us, please?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Sure. Councilman Kincaid.
Present.
Councilman Campbell.
Here.
Councilman Jones.
Here.
Councilman Robertson.
Here.
Councilman Copeland is absent. Councilman Wheat.
Here.
Councilman Fleming.
Present.
Thank you.
Next is approve the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Old business, we go back to Resolution 2019-05 Fiscal Plan for SLH Farms Property Annexation. Ben?
Good evening, council members. This is the first step in a two-step process tonight to get this annexation adopted. The fiscal plan is the first via resolution. So as I kind of alluded to last time when we were introducing the annexation ordinance, the fiscal plan is fairly straightforward. It's an agricultural piece of property, no existing residents, so we're really not adding any assessed value and revenue to the city. So the revenue side is essentially zero over the next 5 years in terms of fiscal plan projections. Similar on the cost side, this annexation doesn't include any adjacent roadways, so we're not adding anything to our road network that require maintenance. It's a landlocked piece of property. So the cost side of adding this property is also essentially zero over the next 5 years. There currently is not a proposal for development here. There really aren't any projections for revenue beyond what you're seeing from essentially an agricultural piece of property. So nothing really even for me to highlight in the fiscal plan because it basically says zero on both the positive and negative sides. So that in a nutshell is the fiscal plan for this annexation. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Ben?
Not for me.
None for Mike? None from anyone else? I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2019-05.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Resolution 2019-5 Fiscal Plan for SLH Farms Property Annexation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Now we'll look at Ordinance 2019-04, consideration of the SLH property annexation to the City of Lebanon. This will be the second reading. Ben?
Just a quick recap, we're looking at a property on the northwest part of the community. Throw it up on the overhead here just for a reminder. This is about 1,000 feet east of State Road 39, just on the north side of 300 North, just as I just referenced in the fiscal plan. As you can see, it is not adjacent. It's one property removed from 300 North and one property removed from 25 East. This is an annexation that was 100% voluntary, and again, because we're in a year before a census, this annexation will not become effective until January 1 of 2020. Again, happy to any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Ben?
Not for me.
Not hearing any, I will entertain a motion.
Public comment?
I'll get to that.
Oh, sorry.
I'll entertain a motion to approve Ordinance 2019-04.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2019-04.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any public comment on this ordinance? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2019-04, the SLH property annexation of the City of Lebanon? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those that disapprove, same sign. Ayes have it. Okay. Ben, I got one question.
Yes, sir.
We seem to be getting a lot of properties like this out in the wide open spaces. And I honestly haven't kept up on the new annexation laws, and maybe we need to have some discussion about that one of these days. But it seems like we've got a lot of open space that we're annexing, leaving out some of the residents around us.
Yeah.
And one of the things I drastically hate is pockets in the city.
100%
Is there anything we can do to try to, are you up to date on the new rules on annexation?
Yes, for the most part, yes.
Okay, so can you give us any idea of what we could do to,
I think our best first step would be to send a letter to those property owners and indicate they're adjacent. If they're willing to voluntarily annex, maybe in exchange for public utilities or something like that, that's probably the best course of action. The second course is a non-100% voluntary annexation, which really hasn't been our practice to do that in most cases, and I don't think that's necessarily going to change anytime in the near future, but that would be kind of the second step, is if we really wanted to get those in, we would do an involuntary annexation, but I don't think that's anything we're interested in doing. So I think really we can invite them to request annexation in exchange for something. I don't think anybody's going to be willing to annex for nothing necessarily, so.
well, we got several residents I know that are getting services already.
Oh, yeah, and that's the
You know,
big
and
challenge
they
in
have
some of
been
these
for
areas.
years.
If they already have
And they're
services, but they're not
annexed
paying
into the city,
taxes.
and they're still getting all the benefits of the city.
Agreed.
And all these people still that were going around are still getting all the benefits of the city. So it's just a real problem, I think. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
If we want to take this up and discuss further at one of the council work sessions and maybe kind of work through some potential
Probably
options.
ought to be a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
One of these days.
We can certainly put something together for that.
Okay, all right, thank you. New business. First on the agenda is an ordinance 2019-05. This is a rezone of 906 North Lebanon Street, Lebanon, Indiana. This will be a first reading.
This is a rezone to facilitate the sale of a property. This is a home on North Lebanon Street. It's on the west side of the road, directly across the street from the dentist office. It is currently zoned multifamily. It is a single-family home in a multifamily zoning district, which is a non-conforming use. The gentleman, Mr. Turpin, that owns this property is in the process of selling. His prospective buyer went to get his mortgage approved, and then the loan officer told him that it's not an approved use in the zoning district, so they wouldn't loan him the money to buy the house. So because of that, he came in to request a rezone to a zoning district that would permit single-family uses, so essentially he can sell his home for the use that it has been historically. Kind of the little bit of a history here is before we did our new zoning ordinance and zoning map in 2007, 2008, we had a zoning classification C that allowed all residential uses from single family to multifamily, and many of these areas here were in zone class C, so single family was a permitted use, multifamily was a permitted use. When we redid our zoning map, zoning ordinance, and districts, the zone class C went away, and there was a new district that had been created in a first draft that allowed similar types of uses, and it was decided that we didn't want that kind of zoning district anymore. So they had to try to pigeonhole some of these properties into either a single family or a multifamily zoning district. And so at the time, it was decided to put these in the multifamily zoning district, which doesn't permit single family. So we, by doing that, created a bunch of non-conforming uses. So that's kind of the situation that this home was in for 10 years when he didn't need to do anything or worried about it. It didn't matter because it was a legal existing non-conforming use. But now somebody going for a mortgage probably is an FHA mortgage. Usually when the federal government gets involved in securing the loans, they look at those things a little more closely. Now it's an issue because they won't loan the money. So we in essence created these non-conforming uses on here. So he's looking for a rezone to SF3, which would permit the single-family zoning use that's on the property and allow him to go forward with that sale. The only thing I might ask you to consider, because I'm assuming this is not going to be a controversial rezone, it's allowing a land use that's already existing, I might ask that you consider waiving your rules or suspending your rules and adopting this on first reading to allow him to move forward with the sale of his property.
Any questions for Ben?
So it's currently a single family in a multifamily area, correct? So is everything around it multifamily?
Along the street frontage it is, but behind him to the west is all similar single-family SF3 zoning.
Okay, I guess my only question, so then are we gonna create kind of a patchwork here of different zonings?
In the short term, I mean, it is adjacent to the zone district he's requesting. What I would actually like to do once we finish our comprehensive plan up in the next couple months is review some of these zoning districts to see if it makes more sense for it to be something other than multifamily. Most of these areas are primarily single-family homes, or at least they once were single-family homes. So in my opinion, it makes more sense to be some sort of single-family or some sort of mixed zoning classification. We have a traditional residential zoning classification, which right now is not used anywhere, but I think would be much more relevant in some of these areas than multifamily. Our multifamily zoning district is primarily set up, at least the standards are for kind of your traditional suburban garden-style apartment multifamily, and that's certainly not what we have in our downtown.
Okay. And I have a question for our legal counsel. If the will of the board is, I understand why they want us to suspend rules and go ahead and do that. It makes sense if these folks are trying to buy the house. But is that creating any kind of potential future problem for us if we set that precedent?
No, I don't. I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
If that's the council's decision.
I'm just always fearful of unintended consequences when we do stuff like this that outside of procedure.
Any questions for Ben that I'll have? No?
No, sir.
Okay, Rob, will you read the ordinance here for us, please? Yep.
Ordinance 2019-05, again, is an ordinance for the rezoning property and amending the zoning map of the city of Lebanon. Pursuant to Indiana Code, the Lebanon Plan Commission conducted its required public hearing on May 20th, 2019, and voted 7-0 to send a favorable recommendation of the rezone petition of this property and certified its favorable recommendation to this legislative body on May 21st, 2019. Be it resolved and ordained that this council would find that the petitioner, Mr. Turpin, is the owner of the property. The petitioner seeks to have the property located at 906 North Lebanon Street, that's described in Exhibits A and B, rezoned from the multifamily zoning classification to single-family zoning classification, that the Lebanon Council has paid reasonable regard to the applicable comprehensive plans, the current conditions of the character of the current structures and the uses in the district, and the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adopted. That from and after this date, the official zoning map of the city of Lebanon shall be changed from multifamily zoning classification to the single-family 3 zoning classification, and that the Director of Planning of the City of Lebanon is authorized to change the official zoning map consistent with this ordinance.
I will entertain a motion if you all would like to suspend the rules to adopt this on second reading.
You mean on first reading?
Adopt it on first reading? Adopt it on first reading. Okay, you want to make a motion to suspend the rules?
We have to suspend the rules and then read it again for a second.
Spit,
a motion to approve.
yeah. Yeah, so we need a motion to amend for first reading, right? Suspend the rules for,
We need a motion to amend to suspend, or a motion to suspend the rules to adopt this today on
reading.
first reading. Yep.
Make a motion, we suspend the rules to adopt.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Now we need a motion to approve it on first reading.
We can, so now we can, if you want, I'll go ahead and read it again,
Again?
and then we need a
Then we'll-
motion on
okay.
this. All right.
I don't really think it
So for purposes of today, yeah, well, this again is the second reading ordinance 2019-05, which we've just heard. Again, it's the properties that are depicted in Exhibits A and B, and this is to rezone the property from multifamily to single-family.
I move to approve ordinance 2019-05.
We have a motion to approve ordinance 29-05. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you. Next one, we have ordinance 2019-06, a PUD rezone for Sunbrook Villas, and it's the first reading.
All right, this one I'm not going to ask you to suspend the rules because this is a little bit more complex than the last one. This is a rezone to a planned unit development, a PUD, for a proposed single-family residential development on the northwest part of the community. As you see here on the overhead, this is the concept layout for the development. So suggested it's a single-family development. It is what is called an age-targeted community or lifestyle-targeted community because it is a no-maintenance product. So the homeowner will own their lot just like everybody else who buys a home in a neighborhood. They will be required to maintain the structure, but the homeowners association will actually maintain the property for them, both the common areas and the property that's associated with the home. So this is age-targeted or lifestyle-targeted, so you can imagine this is typically targeted to empty nesters and/or, as we're seeing more commonly now, millennials and younger who just aren't interested in taking care of property. So there are 10 to 20% of these neighborhoods end up being younger buyers who just don't have any interest in taking care of property. So that's kind of the overall development. I can walk through some specifics for you so you kind of get an idea. Gratis and Land Development is here with me. They'll be able to fill in any holes that I miss and talk a little bit about the product and their development timeline for you. Just before I get into the details, this does come to you with a positive recommendation from the Plan Commission. It was voted 7-0 to forward it with a favorable recommendation. So just walking through some of the details. As you can see here at the far south, just to give you an idea of where we're talking about, the far south here is County Road 250 North. And then kind of running along the southwestern side is 275, where it winds its way around up to 300. And what you see here running through the middle is actually Witt Road extended. They're providing the required right-of-way through the middle so we can continue to extend Witt Road north up to eventually to 300 to provide more of a main thoroughfare access through this area. And they are developing, this is a little bit of a unique property because it's bisected by a main thoroughfare like that. That's not very typical to see that, but it is in this case. So you can see here they've got part of their development on both the west and east sides of the road. Their main drainage detention areas on the west side of the road you see here in common area number 3, and this does provide detention for the entire neighborhood. They are also providing common areas along the main thoroughfare, and I'll show you here in a second the landscape plan that shows that the common areas along the road, particularly where the lots back up to where Witt Road would be extended, they're providing mounding and landscaping to screen those backyards from the main thoroughfare, both on Witt Road extended and on 250 North. You obviously have a natural screen here provided by the detention area, and again on the landscape plan you kind of see how that'll play out. There are 110 lots proposed that will be developed, and I guess it depends on the market, but either 2 or 3 phases. So you're probably looking at a 3 to 5 year development time horizon for development like this, again, depending on the market. If we have a little bit of a downturn in the next 5 years, maybe it's a little bit longer, but I think they'd prefer probably closer to the 3-year timeline if all goes well in the next 3 years. We'll pull up the product. This is a villa product, so all that's being proposed right now are ranch homes. Typically, as you get closer to the baby boomer and older, you don't really like walking upstairs anymore, so they're proposing all those small little villas. They range from, this year is the small end, about 1,200 square feet up to about 1,700 square feet. All the homes have masonry as part of the front elevation standard, and then 2 styles of vinyl siding. You can see here you've got kind of a horizontal and a vertical, and others have like a shaker style siding and things like that. They do also have the windows in the garages, windows on the front doors. A lot of them have this architectural treatments like you see here on the peaks. I'll kind of scroll through so you can see some of the other ones. These are all their Aruba plan here. They have two elevations for each home. Here's the Bahama. You can see they've got the same masonry stone product in 2 different vinyl siding styles. Here's the Cayman. It's almost 1,600 square feet. Again, a very similar type of front design. And then the Dominica is the largest one that you see depicted here. Again, shows the masonry, different vinyl siding types, etc. All right, let me pull up. Kind of walk you through the landscaping a little bit. This is kind of a large-scale view. So in addition to the common areas to provide the buffer, they're also, as you can see up here in the northeast, providing what I call programmed open space, or something that's usable by the residents. You can see here they're providing a large area that will have a formal garden and sitting areas, places for people to congregate and talk to their neighbors, et cetera, but it is kind of a formal garden type setting. We do have some images that show you kind of what that might look like once it gets developed out, but this gives you a conceptual idea. As you can see here along Witt Road Extended, you see a minimum 3-foot mound accompanied with evergreen and deciduous tree plantings along the top of the mound along the entire length. As you can see here, they will also provide additional landscaping in the form of trees, evergreen trees, et cetera, around that pond along the perimeter as well. And just to kind of extend down to the far south here, that shows it wrapping around. You got mounds wrapping around that south end along 250 as well. In terms of the overall development, you can see here a couple things to highlight. Let me go back to the main plan. You probably So they do have entrances that are provided essentially on the main road, on Whit Road Extended. There is, I made this mistake at the Plan Commission, there is not an entrance off of 250 North. As you can see here, they got, I guess, 3 entrances off of Whit Road, and then 1 entrance off of 275. And one thing that they will be doing that's not quite depicted here is right now you've got kind of that curve in 275 here, and they're actually going to be reconfiguring that intersection to create a 4-way stop. So Whit Road, or 275, rather than making that curve to the south, will actually kind of curve eastbound and come into a new 4-way stop here with Whit Road, 275, and then the roads to the neighborhood. They will also be constructing kind of a county road cross-section for Whit Road Extended to the north part of their property. So 2 lanes with gravel edges and ditch, and then they'll be providing a trail on one side and a sidewalk on the other side on the far outside of the right-of-way to allow for expansion of the road in the middle if and or when it's needed at some point in the future. So they will be providing full public improvements for that Whit Road Extended all the way up to their northern property line at such time they build the adjacent section of the neighborhood. Let's see if there's anything else kind of on the overall design. Let me pull up my notes from Plan Commission, see if there's anything else I should highlight. In their PUD ordinance, if you had a chance to walk through it, they outline all of their development standards for the development, the minimum standards for each of those homes. In particular, I'll just kind of highlight some of the architectural standards. Essentially what we did is we wrote architectural standards in our PUD ordinance that matched what they were proposing on the homes, such that if the developer or the builder proposed additional elevations in the future, they would have to meet all of those minimum standards or above at that time. Or if something changes 5 years from now and the builder at the time goes away and a new builder comes in, they have minimum standards they need to abide by. So those architectural standards are in the ordinance, and we have also included all of the elevations as an exhibit. So you can kind of get a character exhibit of the existing elevations, so at any point in the future anything's added or changed about those elevations, it still needs to meet those standards and those exhibits for the architectural elevations. So we wanted to make sure to get that in writing. I know there was quite a bit of conversation about traffic generated by this development, and I'll let the developer go into some of the details. They had a traffic analysis done of this area post-development to look at the additional traffic that might be caused and any specific improvements that might be necessary. And they do have those recommendations, and we'd like to include those in any approval that they might get, that they would make those improvements to the roadways. I believe there's some XL, decel lanes that were required and some turn lanes that were required in specific areas. So I'll let them kind of walk through what they found out with their traffic study. We want to make sure those are included. And then there was also some discussion about adjacent public roadways and intersections as you're getting out, maybe as you go east on 250 out towards State Road 39, concerns about that intersection. So there's a lot of conversation. Some of these roads in this immediate area are not currently city roads, so Kevin can talk a little bit about this too. We are working with the county to be able to take over maintenance of these roads, so in the future when it is necessary to widen those lanes out there or make repairs, we have the ability to do that. And then we're obviously very aware of that intersection out at State Road 39. And as we all know, that's an NDOT intersection, so we'll be working with them to figure out what those improvements need to be in the future as traffic starts to increase. Excuse me, same with the bridge as you go south on Whit Road. We're very aware that that's a very narrow bridge on Whit Road and it's going to need to be widened. We've already started taking a look at that as well. So as these two developments, obviously there's a development that's already proposed to the south, and then this one, if it were to be approved, we're very aware of the additional traffic that will be due to this development, so we're making sure that we'll be addressing those as additional residents start moving out here. In terms of drainage, I know there's some questions and concerns about drainage. Farm fields are notoriously bad for draining. Water sheet drains across fields, end up in somebody's backyards. The good thing about this development is they're required to meet our drainage ordinance. And so I would anticipate that drainage will be better in this area post-development because they're required to detain all water on their site and then release it at an acceptable rate into the adjacent ditches. So it'll actually be better because if they're sending everything directly to ditches at an acceptable rate, we'll keep anything from overflowing. So a lot less concern about drainage post-development because they're required to detain all that water. So there were definitely some other concerns that raised about, where kids going into schools. And I know at one point I'd heard that we have capacity for an additional 1,200 students in our school system. So at this point, my understanding is we're welcoming any and all students to the Lebanon School Corporation because we have room for them. So just a couple of things that were highlighted at the Planning Commission meeting. But as I mentioned, it does come to you with a favorable recommendation of a 7-0 vote. With that, I'd be happy to answer any general questions you have, or we can let the developer kind of fill in and talk to you a little bit about the product and the market for it and all that good stuff.
One general question on 250, the railroad tracks, anything about, any work gonna be done on that?
Yes, I apologize. That was one other quote-unquote intersection that came up. I know CSX was intending to come through last year and make some improvements to those crossings. It didn't happen at that time because I don't know if it was misunderstandings or communication or what it was with the county about how many they could close at one time. But so it didn't happen. There's no telling when CSX might be back to make those improvements. They essentially have a crew that goes from city to city and makes improvements, so it could be a long time before they get back. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to address those. Same thing with NDOT. They do have some ability, but they look at the traffic counts. And traffic counts both of roads and trains, and right now my understanding is that route is a low volume train route, even though I understand there are a couple trains a day, but according to NDOT, that's a low volume number of trains. So they're not necessarily going to be the one that's really going to push those improvements. I think the city is going to have to continue to be on those entities to help them understand what we're expecting in the future and make sure that those improvements will get made in a timely fashion.
Seemed like the railroad company made I don't know if it was a comment or not, but because they weren't allowed to do what they wanted to do, that they probably wouldn't be back here in 6 or 7 years.
Well, and that's not necessarily just because they weren't allowed what they wanted to do. That's just because that's just the reality for them. They basically make a loop around the country, so it could be 7 years before they might come back just because of logistics with what that group does. So it's not very easy for them to turn around and come back when they're on their route.
Well,
So-
I'm making reference to the county saying that they couldn't close that road for
Yeah,
their reasons.
My understood is they were asking for a permit to close all roads for a same time. They didn't actually physically intend to close them all at the same time. They were just looking for a window, and inside that window, they would close them at various times. So I think there was some concern that they'd end up with multiple crossings closed at the same time, but I don't think that was the intention, but I guess hindsight at this point.
All right,
But,
final question on a Witt Road extension going through the development.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be no curb and sidewalk gutter system? It's gonna be something else?
It will essentially be a county road cross-section for now. We anticipate at some point in the future, it will need to be widened and the curb and gutter will be installed at that time. But we're essentially designing the road now so it would be easily widened in the future and you could add those features. So it will be, I believe it's a 20 or 24-foot cross-section with gravel shoulders and ditches, but then they will be installing sidewalks. They'll put a 10-foot trail on one side and a typical 5-foot sidewalk on the other. So there'll be pedestrian all along this street.
Why not do it all at the same time?
Oh, we don't need 3 or 4 lanes now.
Oh, okay, but they would
Yeah.
need, okay, I got you.
Yeah, so we're basically leaving
Yeah.
room so it could be that in the
Okay.
future if and or when it's needed.
Yeah.
But since it's not needed now, we're basically starting in the middle and allowing space for it to be widened, and then the sidewalks are on the far outside, so they'll remain there the entire time. We just didn't want to get in a situation where we're requiring to put curbs on a narrower cross-section, and we got to tear it all back out to widen in the future.
The reconfiguration of Witt Road, we've had differences of opinion with the county in the past on Witt Road 250 and up in there. They're on board with all these changes because, well, they're on board with all these changes?
Yeah, Kevin may be able to fill in some of the gaps. I know he's talking
Okay.
with Craig Parks, the county highway engineer, a lot
Okay.
more than I am. I know they're working on an agreement whereby they would essentially give us the right to maintain these roads.
And then who is paying for the rebuild? Then we are responsible for that?
Yeah,
We've annexed that property, correct?
this property, well,
Yeah.
yes, it'll be
Right.
officially effective
2020.
January 1.
Yeah, 2020.
Well, let's wait officially 2020 or whatever. We've officially annexed the property. So we have the right-of-way to the road.
Half of it.
No, we have the right-of-way to the
Well-
other side of the road.
Well, there is no right-of-way now, so we don't. We only get to the center line if right-of-way doesn't exist.
What do you mean there is no right-of-way?
There is no right-of-way.
There's no right-of-way out there?
If you look at the maps, the people out here own to the center lines of the road still. So essentially, there's a right-of-way to the edge of the pavement just for maintenance, but there is no dedicated public right-of-way associated with these roads.
So therefore, we wouldn't get it on any kind of
Well,
inventory.
I would check the law on that, because I do know if it's any kind of annexation by a city
Yeah,
on
yeah,
a
you
county
typically
road,
get
goes
the
to the
entire
other,
right-of-way, but
goes to
there-
the other side of the road?
Yeah, if
Yeah.
right-of-way exists, yes.
Yeah.
So do we have a cost estimate, what the road rebuild's gonna cost?
We don't. And, I mean, at this point, I mean, we're really guessing when it's gonna be necessary. It may not be necessary for 20 years.
So,
The only thing you're looking at is, excuse me, Brent, the only thing you're looking at is the intersection, where it makes a curve, bring it around on this map I saw, right?
Yeah, I can pull up one or the other. It can't give you
well, that's what I'm
right.
confused. I mean, that's gotta be done from day one, right?
Yes, and that's
Okay.
on the
And
development.
Yeah.
that's on the developer. That answered my
Yeah,
question.
so I apologize, I maybe misunderstood the question. So any of the early stage improvements, extending Whit Road, doing that intersection, that's on the developer. If
Okay.
at some point in the future, the road needs to be widened
Oh.
because of additional volume, that's on us. Yep. And I didn't say this, but they will be dedicating right-of-way for 250 and Whit on the existing sections as well. So we have the proposed right-of-way on those roads as well to make improvements in the future as necessary.
So if we are getting maintenance ability on these roads, right, so the county's like, you guys are responsible for maintaining these, correct? Will we get that for our inventory in the city, so we get more money from NDOT at that point?
I'll defer to the city engineer on that question.
The short answer is yes.
Okay,
What we will need to do to make that possible, though, is, and we've already begun these conversations, is we'll need to enter into some sort of an interlocal agreement that would say they're giving, say, 250 North and Whit Road to the city for maintenance. And what we've been talking about with the county is where are there roads sort of at the periphery of the city of Lebanon that make more sense for them to maintain, and where are the roads that make more sense for the city to maintain. And so we can hopefully kind of come up with an equitable swap where we might say, 150 East on the south end of town is a gravel road in the city limits. Well, we don't really have the equipment or the expertise to maintain a gravel road. So we give them that to maintain. In exchange, we take Whit Road and 250 North. There's some other road segments that we're looking at, John Bart, 300 North, other areas, where we would hopefully try to come up with an equitable swap. We're not talking about annexations or anything actually changing city boundaries, just an interlocal agreement that says you maintain those, we maintain these, and then you can take that interlocal agreement and file that with the state of Indiana, and they do change your lane miles that are allocated for things like local road and street and motor vehicle highway funding.
okay. Now, when we go to the point of having to possibly widen these roads down the road, who's responsible for it at that point? The county, because they still own the road?
Well, I think it would be on us if we've already agreed to take over maintenance.
But we don't own it.
We're
Well,
taking over
that
ma-
would be the difficult part, just practically speaking, to widen Whit Road today. Yes, this property and the other Sunbrook property were included in annexations, so the right-of-way adjacent to those annexations will become public right-of-way. And Dick's right, the Indiana code says once you annex adjacent to a right-of-way, you actually are accepting responsibility for the entire right-of-way. But it's been said, there is no right-of-way there. There's, all those people own to the center line. So again, statutorily in the state of Indiana, the only right-of-way that the state of Indiana recognizes as being there in that situation is the width of the pavement. So to widen Whit Road to a 4-lane cross-section, or even just a minimal widening would require right-of-way acquisitions from all the properties that front there. And the difficulty with this area is we've got a lot of these small little 1-acre tracts that are adjacent to the road. So that's a right-of-way acquisition action for each and every one of those individual parcels. Not an easy feat.
The other side of that, Dan, is that once we do the interlocal agreement and we change the mileage over and change it with the state, then we're collecting the funds for that entire stretch of roadway. So that makes us responsible for it, for any change that be made, because we're the ones collecting money.
That's not a get-rich-quick scheme, though, by
No,
the way.
no,
This is not a
no.
significant amount of dollars.
No, you don't make that much, but once you're collecting the money, you're responsible, so, okay. Are you done? Done all you
Got more
can, done all the
questions, I'd be
damage you
happy
can
to answer
do?
any and all of them.
Does anyone have any questions for Sunbrook Villas representatives?
They wanted to get up and talk about their product. Welcome, thank you for being here.
Hello, good evening. My name's Adam Mears. I'm with Gradison Land Development. I'm here with Mark Gradison. This project, Sunbrook Villas, we've been in the works on this for about 8 months at this point to get here today. So happy to have had a successful Plan Commission meeting last week, and happier to be in front of you today for this project. We're very excited about it. This project, again, 8 months ago, presented some unique circumstances. When we first met with Ben on this piece, we had talked some time ago with regards to the original Sunbrook project just south of here about the city's thoroughfare plan bringing Whit Road north, and looking at this Whitehead farm that we were looking to purchase and do this project. Again, creating a development with a 100-foot wide right-of-way in the middle of it posed some challenges. And again, taking a lot of time for us to both try to plan it and work with Ben and Kevin and the city to have a plan that we think is going to serve a market that's needed in Lebanon, and also do it in a way that I think meets Ben's goals for open space and how he wanted to see some things done in the development, and do it in a way that we think will really benefit this area. As Ben said, this is an age-targeted lifestyle product. Maintenance-free living is going to be one of the keys to this development. By that, what we mean is essentially everything as far as yard maintenance, mowing, mulching, fertilizing, taking care of the yards, the shrubs, and then, of course, in the winter, plowing not only the streets, dealing with those, but also plowing everybody's individual driveways, again, to alleviate those needs for what generally is going to be some type of empty nester home buyer. Again, or Ben said, people who don't want to really handle messing with a yard. We've found in other developments where we're doing maintenance-free, it's been a great product. Certainly makes the yards look a lot better all the time. We've got great providers that we use in our developments when we do the empty nester product. They're managed by the HOA, and the HOA, our HOA management firm, again, that we're very active in, does a really good job of managing the empty nester product and making sure that every home is taken care of properly. And again, it really does make a difference when you have a whole neighborhood being taken care of in that way, from the yards to the mulch to the shrubs. It really does add to the nice look of the neighborhood. There's one of the things I want to point out about the open space, this garden that Ben pointed out up in the northeast corner. I think it's going to be a really nice piece. Again, it was something I can tell you. We originally had only one lot over on the right designated, and Ben would not be pushed off of his 2-lot requirement there. So it's going to be a really nice big open garden area, as well as, again, the mounding we're going to be doing up and down that main boulevard. As Ben mentioned, traffic-wise, we did do a traffic study. Not only am I not an engineer, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I can't speak to at least the details of those things. Kevin has always done a much better job of going over some of that traffic stuff. I don't want to throw him under the bus. But Kevin's done a better job of describing those things. However, what I will tell you is the counts didn't show that any major improvements were going to be needed. It did talk about things such as the 4-way stop that Ben mentioned earlier, and that at the 4-way stop there would be a designated left turn lane and then a shared straight and right turn lane at that intersection. As we did with Sunbrook, we had the same type of traffic report from A&F Engineering. We worked with Ben, we worked with the city, and what was asked of us, we did. And we intend to do the same thing with this project and follow those recommendations. And again, work with Kevin and Ben as we've done in the past and make sure we're meeting their requirements as well. Regarding, I guess, the right-of-way that we talked about there, just to make it clear, I know Ben mentioned there's going to be a trail. On the east side, there will be a trail. And then on the west side, there'll be a sidewalk going up and down that Whit Road extension. And we are putting in drainage. Our drainage up along that extension is going to be set in a way to make way for when that road is actually widened, so that there won't be any expense of having to move drains or any of that. We're going to have all that set to make it easy whenever that time comes, however many years down the road, to widen that road as part of the thoroughfare plan in the city. Again, we're very excited about this. I know our builder at this project is Ryan Holmes. They're very excited about this. They do a lot of research. I think for those of you who were here back when a year or so ago talking about Sunbrook, they put a lot of time and effort into their market research. And again, they feel very strongly about this product as we do. So we're excited about being here. Our plan would be, if it were to be approved by the second reading, we're ready to get moving on construction documents, and we plan on having our first section done and paved this year. So we're hot to trot, ready to go. Again, we think this will be a great addition to Lebanon. I know there has been a lot of talk about traffic, certainly a lot of talk about traffic at the Plan Commission. We did our best to discuss what we're doing here. I know Kevin and Ben also talked a lot at Plan Commission about the city's plan and thoroughfare plan for upgrading where things need to be upgraded. And again, we're just here to do what we can do with our project by at least granting the right-of-way needed. Again, I can speak from experience down on Whit Road, trying to get right-of-way for some of our stuff, our entrance to Sunbrook. That's not an easy thing, you know. As Ben said, trying to go around and knock on doors and ask people for some of their property so we can put in an A-cell-D-cell lane, that's not a fun conversation to have. No matter how many times I try to do it, I go out there and do it, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. So for us to be, at least taking control of some of this on 250 and granting that right away, again, I think will make things down the road for the city's thoroughfare plan hopefully better. And again, we want to be a great partner. So myself, Mark Radisson, here to answer any questions you have. And if it's anything that gets really technical, I'm going to duck and let Kevin come in and hopefully talk over my head.
What are the price points on the product?
The average price of these homes will run around $250,000.
So how much below, what's the lowest and what's the highest?
I think it's generally around, call it 220 to 260, somewhere in there, but they believe the average will be right around 250.
The average size of the lot?
The lots will be 50 by 120 or 130.
Any other questions?
On the elevations, just curiosity, why did you guys go with vinyl instead of like a, what's that other one?
Hardy?
Yes.
This is, Ryan Holmes, a lot of their standards, I can tell you, again, when we were here back for Sunbrook, overhangs, were a big discussion with Ben. Ryan Holmes, really the way they build their homes and their design with that different texture, the different types of vinyl they have, the different, be it shake pattern or different patterns are all designed that way, and this is just the way they do it. And they're maintenance free, so unlike Hardy, which isn't maintenance free, it makes for a better maintenance free product for them.
Maybe I missed it, but the actual intersection at 250 and Witt, is there going to be any work done on it alongside of this?
Oh,
address that because that was brought up during the Sunbrook development, and it's going to become a three-way stop. But that's really the only improvements that were recommended at that intersection.
I mean, but rebuild the roadway or just throw up stop signs?
It's essentially to create a three-way stop and whatever improvements are necessary to do that.
Okay.
Any other questions for them?
Yeah, just, you made mention of Sunbrook. Is that a development you've already done?
Well, Sunbrook is actually the piece on the other side of
South side of Whit.
South side.
250 and Witt. It's at the southeast corner.
Okay, behind Walmart, behind the tracks.
Yeah, just
Okay,
west of
nothing's
Walmart.
been done there yet.
It's
Okay, I just got confused about where I was at.
yes, soon. June 15th, I will say there will be dirt moving
Okay,
there.
so you guys are
We're
gonna be
coming.
busy.
We're working hard to get in there. So
Okay,
yes, it's coming.
all right.
Thank you. I've got nightmares now. You stirred me up about Sunbrook.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. It is going there.
Okay.
Just kind of a question and kind of a point of my point. So we see these homes coming in. My home's a little bit like this too. Why aren't we emphasizing more of the front porch and the welcoming? More if you got a garage coming out and you got to walk all the way around it to get to the front porch, the front door. Why is that?
You know, I think it's what their designs are for this type of product is where it is. I don't know if Mark has any input in that, but you know, I think at least from their design standpoint, they spend a lot of marketing dollars on designing a product, at least for this empty nester product that they want, and I think that's just where the design's going. But from a custom home building side, I think Mark can probably talk a little better about that.
Good evening.
Hi.
Excuse me. Mark Gradison Land Development for the record. In most of these type of products that you'll see, patio homes, generally called empty nester style product, when you have a 40-foot wide product and you have the garage, if you recess the garage back, then it really makes it tough to have an open living space. Because if that garage juts in there, then you've got some space that is kind of not working in coordination with the rest of the house. In today's lifestyle, people are looking for more wide open plans, less walls on the inside, you know, combination, great room, kitchen, dining all together. And if we push that garage back in there from a plan perspective, that makes it a little bit tougher. So that's part of the reason why you see that. The architectural is designed by their national architectural group, so they aren't located in Indiana. They're actually located in Reston, Virginia. So different elements, they take different elements from all over the country, and it's not necessarily specific for this market. So that's the other reason why we're sometimes with the local builders, you might see a little bit more front porch. Generally speaking, with Ryan and some of the other larger national firms, you may not see as much front porch as what you see from the local guys. Okay?
Any other questions?
With peer into your crystal ball, I mean, everything can change tomorrow, but as of right now, what is your estimated timeline to have this, every lot completely full and done?
Excuse me? Yeah, about 4 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, 113 lots, I think that's probably a good idea, 4 years or so.
What about Sunbrook? How many years?
You know, honestly, probably not much off that, 4 to 5 years probably at Sunbrook. I mean, there's a lot more lots there, you know, 200 plus. But again, we think based upon what we're seeing from you know, Arbor's project, their new project that started selling, they're selling at an incredibly high rate. So, you know, again, another 4 to 5 year thing, you know, likely at the same time. And Ryan does a good job, by the way, with in other developments where they sell the entry level and empty nester kind of almost near each other. We're doing a very similar project in Cincinnati, in the western side of Cincinnati, where it's literally almost the same thing. We've got the first-time homebuyer product on the north side of the street, south side of the street's empty nester, and they really do a good job marketing both those products. Those are kind of their big high-traffic products. So again, I think, we think they'll sell really well once they get going.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And as a side note, we need to really encourage our friends at the county that they need to get that bridge replaced over Small Reynolds Ditch within 4 years.
Absolutely.
So,
Kevin, do you want to touch that one?
I'll open that can.
As much as I would love to say that that's our friends at the county's responsibility, it is not. I know, obviously, the standard is that the bridges in the county are owned and maintained by the county, but that criteria requires that the bridge span at least 20 feet, and that bridge only spans about 15 feet.
Okay.
So, by the letter of the law, it's not actually a bridge, it's just considered a small structure, and it is our responsibility. Now, once we were to reconstruct that bridge to a larger size, spanning at least 20 feet, and it
That
would
becomes
need
county.
to be upgraded to that, then the county would be responsible for accepting and maintaining that in perpetuity. But unfortunately, the reconstruction of that bridge is going to have to fall on the city. So.
Well, if we need to have a bake sale, I'm in for some brownies or something.
Thanks, Kevin. Does anyone in the public got any comments? Yes? Please state your name for the record, please.
Cindy Zimmerman, 2502 Viceroy Lane, which is off at 250. I've addressed the council before when it came to annexation of this property, and there are several questions that I have yet to see answered. Maybe they have been. I did go up and talk to Ben and Derek and was not able to make the plan commission, but I have no problems with the development layout per se. My concerns are 250 and 300 yet are still options for the state for the new exit ramp. Is that correct?
I don't think so. I think we're looking just north of that.
Well, certainly, anything is possible, anything is an option, and the state is considering several options. But I will say, it appears the state seems to be zeroing in on 300 North or somewhere north of 300 North in that area. I think they've abandoned the idea of 250.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that addresses that. Then the second concern is, where is the construction and delivery, where is the exit for that going to be? I understand Witt Road is to be repaved next year, is that correct? Do you know?
Kevin can answer that question.
Stay up there, Kevin.
Witt Road is on our repaving schedule for this year, but this is just the area within city limits. So from Lafayette Avenue north to essentially the north end of the Hickory Meadows and Rolling Meadows subdivisions.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so those are my issues. The other is what I've talked to you before about the railroad, and I understand the railroad's the railroad and they're going to do what they're going to do, or not do what they need to do. But I would challenge each of you to come and sit in my sunroom and just stay there for a half hour and watch the amount of traffic that does not yield to that railroad crossing, that is actually airborne when they go over those tracks. I can hear them land. I've witnessed the 2 accidents that have happened there, and that is a major concern when we add an additional 300, 400 cars on that road per se. And I, again, am not an expert of engineering, but I live there. I see it on a daily basis. And I know a lot of people have gotten used to the 11 o'clock and the 3 o'clock trains. In the last week, that schedule has changed. Today it was 10 o'clock. So they do go through, and sometimes it's been 2 in the morning, rarely, but that has happened. So those are my concerns with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or anything? state your name and where you
Evening,
live,
council
please.
members. I'm Dave Dean. I live at 1190 West, 275 North, adjoining the property to the west on 275. Like Cindy, some of my concerns are with traffic. One of the train accidents was a fatality this last fall, as well as accident that claimed my son's life at 150 and 300 North. So adding 204 homes to the subdivision to the south, plus 102 next to us will greatly improve or increase the traffic flow. Another concern, we got Police Chief Chad Morgan here tonight, but is the amount of patrol that's going to take to require what we bring into the city. We're just putting homes behind Riley Road right now, so that's additional. I don't know how many homes are back there, plus the 204 to the south, plus another 110 over there. As far as traffic flow, read an article just not too long ago about traffic flow, and we can think a lot about what we just did to our beautiful courthouse and the road surrounding there. So when an area is opened up wide, like what we're talking about, the road bisecting Whit Road extended, the visual is for people that drive is that the wider the road, the faster I can go. What we indeed did with the city near the courthouse, by the aspect of what you see up there, by narrowing that, actually slows the traffic flow down and probably increases the safety around the courthouse. So by putting a possible 4-lane thoroughfare bisecting that piece of property, whereby it could be age targeted, but the age really can't be targeted, because that'd be like saying discrimination. The age is anything. You might get a retirement person, or you might get a millennial that's just starting out. And thinking about that, with Cindy's comment over there, with Cindy over there, living in there where she's at, over with the beautiful duplexes, we already have a nice community over there for people that are nearing retirement, I guess you say. Right, Brent? But also a concern, not putting anybody's homes down or anything, but you're talking about homes that are just a small brick facade or stone facade on the front, but mainly vinyl. Now, most of the homes, or several of the homes around our area out there, ours is all brick. The only vinyl is some soffit and aluminum wrap around the fascia. So, we're talking, our house is approximately 2,500 square feet versus something to our backyard that's going to be 1,200 to 1,700 square feet. So, I would have a hard time paying $250,000 for something that just has a spot of brick on there. So, just some of my concerns about our property value. We can think of the assessed value or the appraised value of a home. That could be one thing, but it's what you can get out of it. So today it may be worth $340,000, but if you put this beside there, the people that look at that may think it's only worth $250,000 at that point. It's like having something at an auction that you think is worth $500, but it's only worth what you can get out of it at that point. It may have appraised at $250 or whatever, but if you can't get that, it doesn't matter. So, some of the concerns.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a comment? Yes.
I just had a question. I got off on another track about the construction entrances where there will be.
What's the question again?
Where the construction entrances will be.
Where is the construction entrance going to be? You got to have an idea.
Well, clearly the main entrance will be coming in off of
Whit Road.
250 or Whit Road and right into our, that extension that we're doing there. So
Yeah.
there's nowhere else for it to really come in. That's the
Yeah.
only main entrance. But it'll essentially be moving right onto our property, essentially right at that three-way stop for the most part. It'll pop right into our property.
Most of the construction traffic will be headed up Whit Road, and I think that's more her concern, is most of the construction traffic will be headed up Whit Road to get to your property,
I would imagine so.
as opposed to coming across 250.
Right. It's really hard to try to direct construction traffic
No, I
into
know,
the development,
I know.
right? So once Once they arrive at the development, yes, they will come in more than likely, most of the time through that, through the new four-way stop and the Whit Road extension that we're going to put in. And they'll be more on property as soon as they hit that intersection. We aren't going to have a gravel road.
Right.
We already have 4 entrances into the development, so there's no need really to have a separate construction drive
Right.
coming in. So
Right.
that would be the plan currently.
Right. I think she's more concerned about the traffic that might be coming across 250. And
I don't know
just-
where the trades are coming from, so.
I understand that. I understand that more than likely after they made the first trip, they'll probably stay on Whit Road and come across the railroad tracks, and that, you get a few that may go that direction, but I don't know that they'll.
Right.
I have a question I just thought of. I understand where the north property boundary of your property stops. Do you own property beyond that? Or is that a contiguous piece of property over to 300? Or what you own stops at that property line where this development
The
stops?
farm that we're buying stops there. So
Okay.
there's another owner that is north of there, and there's also sanitary sewer easement that runs in between there for the interceptor that comes through.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on to first reading.
I have another question before we get started on there. What was the price point again for these products?
220 to 260.
260.
They want to average about 250, they said.
So Mark's saying that the smallest one may be around 200, but again, they believe the average will be right around 250.
$200,000?
Correct.
For how many square feet?
It was 1,200.
Okay, all right. Just curious. Thank you.
Prices are up.
Go ahead. That's my own question.
Yes.
Okay. Council, this is ordinance 2019-06, and it's an amending ordinance of 07-16, the Unified Development Ordinance. As Ben indicated, the Plan Commission considered a petition filed with it, amending the Unified Development Ordinance and the zoning map that's all set forth in Exhibit A. The commission forwarded docket 19-2 after a public hearing on May 20th to this council with a favorable recommendation by a vote of 7-0 in accordance with Indiana Code. The secretary of the commission certified this action to the council on May 21st, 2019. And this ordinance would amend, again, all as, and this is a rather lengthy ordinance, but the real estate set forth in Exhibit A. In Exhibit B, we had the architectural standards, and in Exhibit C, we have the concept plans. The development standards are set forth in Section 5, and the permitted uses are in Section 4. Again, those are detailing the architectural standards, the landscape standards, the lighting, parking, the signage, the street width, all as Mr. Bontrager discussed earlier.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2019-06. We'll have the second reading at the next meeting in 2 weeks. Okay. Now we move to item C. Food and beverage request, Colonial Market Days, Casey Sampson. Do we have a report from the Food and Beverage Committee on this?
We do. So we'll let Casey start it, but we do have a favorable recommendation. So, council. And Casey's going to talk a little bit about the Colonial Market Days. It's going to be happening here in the beginning of June here at Southside Park. So, Casey, go ahead.
I'm going to switch computers here for a second, possibly. Sorry, you're fine. All right, technology actually cooperated. So good evening, council. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Casey Sampson. I am serving as the president for Colonial Market Days and Encampment, Inc. That is a newly formed nonprofit, it's an educational nonprofit. What we're focusing on is the 18th century colonial America. And so what we're asking for tonight is a request for funding for an event that we have going on June 8th and 9th. And I have a short little presentation here, and I will go quickly, I promise you. So, give you a little bit of introduction about myself. So we own 3 businesses here in Lebanon, all in the same location on the square. The Sampson Leather, Sampson Historical, and Reliving History Magazine. Sampson Historical and Reliving History Magazine are based around the 18th century. So it's all colonial products and such. Then you're probably familiar with just our leather shop downtown. So the 18th century magazine specifically has been an asset to this event that we're having for national advertising. We have thousands of subscribers that are able to see that, and there's been an ad in there since last September for this event. What we're offering with this event is a quality of a life event located at Abner Longley Park on the south side of town. This is a family-oriented event. It is affordable. Admission is nominal. It's a safe and educational event, so most of the activities will be hands-on. There will be a couple hands-off presentations, such as cannons. We don't allow people to light our cannons, but they will be up close and personal with the horses, demonstrating first-person interpreters. The rest of my bullet points here are gone, so we're going to go to the next page. This does put Lebanon on the map, though. Reenactors are going to be traveling from multiple states. We've got some from Wisconsin, as far as Pennsylvania, as well as the surrounding donut states in Indiana. And we're already seeing visitors from outside of the county and even the state. So we are doing pre-sale tickets, and we have some ticket holders coming in from Ohio and Kentucky as well. So that is exciting. It also puts those visitors right into the hotels here in the surrounding area and in Lebanon. The strategy has been pretty simple here. We did establish that nonprofit. We did seek and were awarded some advertising grants. We have a very strong social media advertising knowledge. That's where 90% of our sales are online. So we are very vast in how to market and where to market those. With our company, and being that this company is in the same crowd, we're able to deliver that. And with that, obviously, we have that industry knowledge for the type of event. And that kind of gives you just a small capture of how many events we do a year, which is probably impossible for you to see there since it's so tiny. But it's about 30 shows a year. And so we're well versed on how events are to be ran and supported. Give you a financial snapshot here. The estimated cost of this event is close to $15,000. There's a lot of things that go into that. Entertainment is a big one. So to bring in that public draw, to pay these, and these aren't just the reenactors. We don't pay the reenactors per se, but the entertainment that goes along with it. So the street performers, the live demonstrations, all of that cost. Each cannon costs about $30 to shoot, so it's expensive. And so some of those are offset as entertainment, as well as the insurance, different security, music, which is kind of been part of entertainment, but advertising is a huge part of that. We've had a pretty good response from our private donations. We were awarded a substantial and appreciative $10,000 grant from the Boone County CVB, and that's been put to use very heavily. We've also have a 1,500 corporate sponsor, which will be announced as soon as we have all the paperwork filed. And just from individuals, and that number is actually just slightly increased as of today, around 3,500 private donations from people outside of Lebanon and the state. And what we're actually looking for is to kind of help offset some of this cost for this initial event. Just a side note, I'm a business person. I believe in making money, frankly. So as this board, it is a nonprofit, but we also believe that this has to be self-sustaining. My goal is to not be in front of these boards every year, to ask and seek for assistance. So in 3 years, if it is not profitable, we look at why it's not, either change it or eliminate it. But for this initial request, we're seeking the $1,500 to offset the cost of the restroom facilities. Currently at Abner Longley Park, there is one permanent structure, but within, anticipating thousands of patrons, we have to have somewhere for them to go to the bathroom, and that's where this comes in. The local business that we're going to be using is Anytime Outhouses, so it's 2 Lebanon graduates, the Loves, and so we're excited to be working with another business in the city. And to kind of wrap it all up here, it's also important for us to have these events to give back to civic organizations and other nonprofits. So this year, it has been a slight struggle to get some of the civic organizations and other nonprofits on board, not knowing with really what to do. So we're working with 2 other ones from Kokomo area, Boy Scout troops, to show them how it's done, basically, and to say that how much these can be a real good fundraiser for those organizations. So to raise money, and then also as a community service for volunteerism, support, ticket take. There's a lot of different staff positions that are needed to be filled. And if anybody's interested, we're still needing volunteers. And I don't know why that my last slide's not showing up, but I guess I'll go back. I'm going to hand this out real quick to you, and then I'm finished with my presentation. This, what I'm getting ready to hand you, is the schedule of events. And then you'll notice that on our marketing material, we've been using the Boone County CVB logo. And if awarded the money tonight, we're prepared to use that food and beverage logo as well to explain to the community how this funding was possible. And with that, I would welcome any questions or comments.
Any questions for Casey?
Yeah, so this nonprofit, is anybody drawing a salary from this nonprofit?
No, there's no salaries on this nonprofit, and it's not designed to be. In fact, in the bylaws, it says, which are registered with the state, that none of the board members are paid for in any way. The only thing that can be paid for is a reimbursement.
Reimbursement?
Well, for instance, if before we were able to get the grant, how that time place is on, we had to start advertising and printing. So those receipts just get paid back. But other than that, there's no way that a board member can receive money.
Isn't Sampson Family Leather LLC the publisher of Reliving History magazine?
That is correct.
So are we paying them for advertising? Okay.
Nope, not one bill has been sent.
Okay.
That's been in kind.
Casey, how many people do you think you're going to draw in with this event?
So we've, just last check here, we've 220 pre-sold tickets, advanced tickets. Social media is gearing somewhere around 1,800 that are saying that they're liked or interested in going. And we know that may not be the most accurate number. We are using a similar marketing strategy than what Whitestown used for their Viking Festival. They were anticipating 2,000, and I hope Nathan quotes me here, but I think they got almost 7. So we're really hoping and expecting to get somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 through the door.
Whitetown's expecting 2,000 and they got 7,000?
I believe that is the correct number. I know it was way more than double than what they expected.
Yeah, they did. I heard that.
So they had a really good event, and we're using a similar strategy.
And what's admission going to be?
It is 8 for adults and 5 for children. 5 and under are free.
And the goal in 3 years is for this to be sustaining on its own?
Correct, which is why we do have that admission. And so then once this event is going on, that it's done completely through grants and fees such as the merchants. So a typical merchant fee for these events is anywhere from $100 to $150. Then the food vendors as well. So another area event that you probably are all familiar with is the Feast of the Hunter's Moon. They again, work with the nonprofits, and they charge those nonprofits a rental fee for the weekend, and then, you know, they keep all the profits from what they sell. But on top of those fees, and then also, you know, sponsorship and advertising.
Thank you.
So just are you charging the vendors rental?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So we've got vendor fees, and if you get the attendance you're talking about, you're looking at $56,000.
That's a pretty high number.
That's your numbers.
Yeah.
At $7 apiece.
I agree.
Granted, that's pie in the sky, but
And that's, you know, that's if everything works out, it doesn't rain anymore, and we have good weather. It's because where we're at right now, you know, rain's always a problem, so.
Okay, now,
My only question to you is, are you going through the Parks Department and they got it all authorized from them?
Yes, sir. We went to the
And
Parks
you-
Board last fall and have approval. We've been working with John and their staff.
So they're on board with it?
Yes.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the things we're really excited with the parks is this is the first time we'll have horses at a city park for an event, and we're excited to prove ourselves with that as well.
and that's all after we presented the Food and Beverage Committee, we all vetted that through also to make sure everything was good with the Parks Department. They are good there. So we came out with a favorable recommendation from the Food and Beverage Committee. With that, I will make a motion that we allot $1,500 from the Food and Beverage Committee for the event.
We have a motion to allow $1,500 to the Food and Beverage Committee for the Colonial Market Days. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a second. All those, any questions? Any more questions about it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Have a
Good
night.
luck.
Good luck.
Okay, any other new business?
Not for me.
Claims?
Nothing out there?
New business.
Oh, we are going to appoint,
Yes?
we're going
Oh,
to,
that's right. We need to
Utility.
appoint Dan Lamar back to the Lebanon Utility Board.
I know.
I'd make the motion that we appoint Dan Lamar to the Utility Board.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Dan Lamar back to the Lebanon Utility Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. By vote nay? No. Ayes have it. Unanimous.
Everybody, so,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's fine.
Aye. Anything else? Any other new business?
Claims.
We have claims. I'll entertain a motion to pay the claims.
Make a motion, we pay the claims.
We have a motion to pay the claims. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now I need another motion to adjourn. We
Oh.
have one more thing.
We
Yes,
have an
sir.
announcement.
We have an announcement. I'm sorry.
Do not forget this. I'm going to say it one more time. Friday, June 7th at 10 o'clock, east side of the courthouse square, we're having a hoagie sale for the Lions Club. This is the 63rd year, so come out and get your hoagie, $5, double meat, double cheese. Remember, everything we do in the Lions Club,
Double meat, double cheese for
you got it.
$5.
Everything we do in the Lions Club, come back and support the community.
Bargain at twice the price.
Any lettuce, tomato go with that, or?
Too soggy, we just want meat and cheese.
And Dan will be singing.
I have two, June 7th, YMCA celebration, flying toasters, playing in back of the Y again. Fun time, fundraiser. And on June 8th is the Kiwanis Club Fishing Derby that we do every year, free for the kids at the Hot Pond.
Okay, any other announcements? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Somebody's got it, come on.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I did.
Keith did. Keith couldn't stand anymore.
Thank you for